The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederacy sparkled under the light of 3 artificial suns, its crystalline dome reflecting countless stars from systems both near and far. Supreme Chancellor Stor, his iridescent scales gleaming with barely contained amusement, stood before the assembled representatives of over 200 spacefaring civilizations. The image hovering above the central podium showed what the humans proudly called their greatest achievement, the HS Prometheus. And so, Vexthor's voice carried the characteristic hiss of the Serpentary. Our younger siblings from that backwater spiral arm believe they have created something worthy of our attention. Ripples of laughter echoed through the chamber, the various species expressing their mirth in ways ranging from subsonic rumbles to high-pitched trills. The Prometheus was impressive by human standards, a vessel stretching nearly 2 kilometers in length, its obsidian hull adorned with what they claimed were revolutionary quantum phase shields. The ship's most striking feature was its distinctive arrowhead design, with 4 massive energy projectors positioned at cardinal points around its central mass. The humans had announced its completion with great fanfare, claiming it represented a leap forward in military technology that would ensure humanity's place among the stars. Admiral Kethel of the Arxian Defense Force, a veteran of countless space battles, stepped forward to offer his analysis. His crystalline form refracted light as he moved, creating dancing patterns across the chamber floor. The design is primitive at best. Their understanding of basic spatial mechanics appears to be fundamentally flawed. Those energy projectors, for instance, positioned in a way that would create destructive resonance in any real combat scenario. More laughter followed. The Confederacy had ruled space for over 50,000 years, their combined technological knowledge making them the undisputed masters of known space. Humanity, barely 3 centuries into faster-than-light travel, was seen as little more than an amusing curiosity. High Commander Lyra Reyes, standing in the observation gallery of the Prometheus, watched the broadcast with quiet intensity. Her dark eyes reflected the holographic feed showing the Confederacy's response to their unveiling. Behind her, the bridge crew continued their preparations, their movements precise and purposeful. They had expected this reaction. Counted on it, even. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady. "All systems nominal," Commander, reported Lieutenant Sarah Chen from her station. "Quantum core stable at 97% efficiency. Shield harmonics aligned. Host protocol ready for activation on your command." The Prometheus represented not just a leap, but a revolution in human engineering. While the Confederacy saw primitive energy projectors, they were actually looking at the first successful implementation of space-folding technology. What they dismissed as flawed positioning was in fact a carefully designed array capable of creating artificial wormholes at will. The ship's true power lay in what couldn't be seen. Decades of studying Confederate technology had taught humanity one crucial lesson. Their enemies' sensors all operated on similar principles, using what humans had dubbed traditional quantum observation. The Prometheus was built around an entirely different paradigm, employing principles that the Confederacy had never even considered possible. "Signal from Earth Command," announced Communications Officer Marcus Wong. "Operation Shadow Dance is approved. We have green light." Commander Reyes allowed herself a small smile. "Very well. Let them laugh. Navigation. Plot course to target Alpha. Lieutenant Chen, initiate Ghost Protocol. Let's show our friends in the Confederacy why they should have paid more attention in physics class." The Prometheus's quantum core hummed to life, its revolutionary drive system creating ripples in space-time that Confederate sensors would register as nothing more than background radiation. As the ship slipped away from Earth's solar system, its destination was clear: the Confederacy's primary shipyards in the Arcturus sector. They would strike where the Confederacy felt most secure, using technologies that defied their understanding of physics. The ship's name had been chosen with careful consideration, like the mythological Prometheus who stole fire from the gods. Humanity was about to show the galaxy that knowledge and power weren't the exclusive domain of ancient civilizations. Message from the diplomatic corps, Wang reported. The Confederacy has officially classified the Prometheus as, and I quote, a charming attempt at relevance by our primitive neighbors. Perfect, Rise replied, her eyes fixed on the starfield ahead. Send our regards to Chancellor Stor. Tell him we look forward to demonstrating our primitive technology in person. As the Prometheus accelerated to full speed, its revolutionary drive leaving no trace in normal space, Commander Rise reflected on the irony of the situation. The Confederacy's greatest weakness wasn't their technology. It was their absolute certainty in their own superiority. They had forgotten that evolution favored not the strongest or the most advanced, but those most capable of adaptation. Humanity was about to remind them of that fundamental truth, and the lesson would shake the foundations of their carefully ordered galaxy. The Arcturus shipyards were a testament to Confederate engineering, a massive complex spanning the space between three dwarf planets, connected by shimmering energy conduits and gravitational tethers. At any given moment, the shipyards housed enough firepower to subjugate an entire spiral arm. Security was considered unbreachable, a fact that had held true for over 10,000 years. Until now. The Prometheus emerged from its quantum shift less than 50,000 kilometers from the shipyard's central control hub. To Confederate sensors, the space remained empty, their quantum-based detection systems unable to register the ship's unique phase-shifted existence. Multiple Confederate capital ships detected, Lieutenant Chen reported, her fingers dancing across her holographic interface, counting 15 dreadnoughts, 47 cruisers, and approximately 200 support vessels, all maintaining standard patrol patterns. Commander Reyes stood at the command center, her posture relaxed but alert. Any indication they've detected us? Negative, Commander. Their sensor sweeps are passing right through us. The Ghost protocol is performing exactly as designed. The Prometheus's revolutionary technology wasn't just about remaining undetected. It represented a fundamental shift in how humanity approached space warfare. While the Confederacy relied on brute force and overwhelming firepower, the human vessel was designed around the principle of asymmetric warfare. Begin Phase 1, Rise ordered. Deploy quantum seeds. From the Prometheus's ventral hull, dozens of tiny devices no larger than soccer balls detached silently. Each contained a miniaturized version of the ship's phase-shifting technology, programmed with a very specific purpose. As the seeds spread out across the shipyard complex, Lieutenant Wang monitored Confederate communications. They're still discussing the diplomatic reception on Centauri Prime. Chancellor Stor is giving another speech about primitive species knowing their place. How fortunate, Rise replied dryly. We wouldn't want to interrupt his important work. Status of the seed network. Seeds in position, Chen confirmed. Quantum field alignment at 98%, ready to initiate on your command. The plan they were about to execute had been years in the making. The seeds weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were something far more sophisticated. Each one was designed to create a localized phase shift that would temporarily push Confederate technology out of sync with normal spacetime. Send the activation signal, Rice commanded. Full spectrum deployment. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the massive shipyard complex, Confederate systems began to fail in ways their engineers had never conceived possible. Shield generators phase-shifted out of alignment, weapons systems lost coherence, and communication arrays fell silent. The mighty dreadnoughts, each capable of destroying entire planets, found themselves unable to maintain basic power distribution. Confederate response, Rise asked, watching the chaos unfold on the main display. Complete confusion, Wang reported, monitoring their communications. Their emergency protocols. They're actually making things worse. Their attempts to compensate are amplifying the phase disruption. This was the true genius of humanity's approach. Rather than trying to match Confederate firepower, they had found a way to turn the aliens' own technological sophistication against them. The more advanced the system, the more vulnerable it was to the phase disruption. Multiple distress calls being broadcast, Wang continued. They're requesting immediate assistance from the Central Fleet. Sir, they still haven't realized we're here. Commander Rise allowed herself a small nod of satisfaction. Deploy the marker, boy. Let's make sure they know exactly who did this. A single device launched from the Prometheus, its stealth systems deactivating as it reached the center of the shipyard complex. It began broadcasting a simple message on all Confederate frequencies. Greetings from the primitive species. Perhaps it's time we had a serious discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy. Confederate command structure is in chaos, Wong reported, unable to keep a note of satisfaction from his voice. Multiple senior officials demanding explanations. The Arxian Defense Force is being mobilized. Then our work here is done, Rice declared. Plot course for Phase 2 target. Let's give them some time to appreciate the implications of what just happened. As the Prometheus prepared to slip away, its sensors recorded the arrival of the first Confederate response fleet. The massive vessels, pride of the galactic community, moved to surround the disabled shipyards, their crews entirely unaware that the source of their humiliation was quietly watching from what they would have considered impossible space. Message from Earth Command, Wong announced. They're forwarding a response from Chancellor Vexthor. It's quite colorful, sir. I imagine it is, Rise replied with a slight smile. Maintain Ghost Protocol. Take us out. The Prometheus vanished as silently as it had arrived, leaving behind a scene of unprecedented chaos. In less than an hour, humanity had accomplished what no species had managed in 50,000 years. They had struck at the heart of Confederate power and emerged completely unscathed. In the Grand Assembly Hall, Chancellor Vexthor's scales had lost their luster as he faced the harsh reality of his miscalculation. The humans hadn't been bluffing or exaggerating. They had been warning the Confederacy, offering a chance to avoid this very situation. Now, as reports of the attack flooded in, a terrifying question began to circulate among the Confederate leadership. What else had they underestimated about humanity? The emergency session of the Confederate High Council bore little resemblance to their previous gathering. Gone were the casual dismissals and arrogant laughter. In their place was a tense silence as Admiral Kthal presented his analysis of the Arcturus incident. The attack was unprecedented, the crystalline being admitted, his usual confidence noticeably dimmed. Our initial scans indicate technology operating on principles we haven't encountered in 50,000 years of space exploration. The human vessel didn't just evade our defenses, it operated entirely outside our understanding of physical laws. Chancellor Vexthor's scales had taken on a pale, sickly hue. How is this possible? They were nothing, barely able to achieve controlled fusion when we first encountered them 3 centuries ago. That may have been our first critical error, Kthal responded. We assumed their technological progression would follow predictable patterns. Instead, they appear to have developed along paths we never considered viable. The massive display behind them showed the spreading impact of the Prometheus's demonstration. Beyond the Arcturus shipyards, Confederate military installations across 3 sectors had increased their alert status. The mighty Central Fleet, previously dispersed across dozens of systems, was being consolidated, a tacit admission of vulnerability that would have been unthinkable days earlier. Meanwhile, aboard the Prometheus, Commander Rice reviewed the data from their first strike. Analysis of Confederate response patterns. Exactly as predicted, Lieutenant Chen reported. They've begun implementing standard containment protocols, increasing shield harmonics, strengthening quantum detection grids. All useless against our technology, but it's what their military doctrine demands. They're gathering their fleet at Nexus Point 7, Wong added. Approximately 3,000 capital ships, with more arriving every hour. The largest concentration of Confederate military power in the last millennium. Reyes nodded, unsurprised. They're trying to present an overwhelming show of force. Classic response from an empire that's never faced a serious challenge. Status of Phase 2 target. The Helios Research Station is maintaining normal operations, Chen confirmed. Their security hasn't been significantly upgraded. They still believe their location is secret. The Helios station represented the true heart of Confederate technological supremacy, their most advanced research facility, hidden in the chromosphere of a blue supergiant. Its location was one of the Confederacy's most closely guarded secrets, known only to their highest-ranking officials. "Begin approach vector," Rice commanded. "Let's show them why gathering their fleet was a mistake." The Prometheus slipped through space, its ghost protocol rendering it invisible to the frantic Confederate efforts to track it. As they approached the Helios station, the ship's sensors detected increasing activity within the Confederate command structure. "New transmission from Confederate High Command," Wong reported, his voice tight with suppressed excitement. They're offering to negotiate." After one demonstration, Rise raised an eyebrow. "That's surprisingly reasonable of them." "The transmission contains significant encrypted data," Wong continued. "Analysis suggests they're trying to embed tracking algorithms in the signal." "How primitive of them." Rise smiled. "Acknowledge the transmission. Use Protocol 7. Let them think their algorithms are working. Time to show them the difference between tracking the ship and being able to do anything about it." The Prometheus's approach to Helios Station was deliberately slow, allowing Confederate sensors to detect fragments of their presence. Like a ghost ship from ancient maritime legends, they left just enough evidence to create uncertainty and fear. Inside the station, alarms began to sound as their sensors detected anomalous readings. The station's defensive systems, considered the most advanced in Confederate space, activated automatically. Energy shields layered the facility in supposedly impenetrable protection, while quantum phase cannons prepared to fire at any threat. "They've detected our weak signature," Chen reported. "Station defenses at maximum. They're actually burning out some of their sensor arrays trying to get a lock on us." "Confederate fleet is responding," Wong added. "Multiple battle groups breaking formation at Nexus Point 7. They're attempting to predict our destination based on our apparent trajectory." Rice watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Confederate response was splitting their forces, exactly as intended. Their mighty fleet, gathered to present an overwhelming show of force, was now spreading itself thin, trying to protect too many potential targets. "Deploy secondary seed network," she ordered. "Let's give them something new to think about." Across Confederate space, a new wave of quantum seeds activated. Unlike the first wave at Arcturus, these were programmed differently. Instead of disrupting technology, they began creating phantom sensor readings, false signatures that mimicked the Prometheus's wake. Suddenly, Confederate forces were detecting potential human vessels in dozens of locations. Their command structure, already strained by the Arcturus incident, began to fracture as different factions argued over which threats were real and which were decoys. "Confederate communication channels are approaching saturation," Wong reported, unable to keep the amusement from his voice. "Multiple commanders requesting immediate support. Their chain of command is starting to break down." "Perfect," Rice replied. "They're about to learn another lesson about humanity. We don't just develop new technology. We understand how to use it strategically." As the Prometheus maintained its deliberate approach to Helios Station, the crew watched the Confederate defense network unravel. The aliens' rigid military doctrine, developed over millennia of unchallenged supremacy, was proving catastrophically unsuited to dealing with an enemy that didn't play by their rules. "Final approach to Helios Station," Chen announced. "Ready to begin Phase 2 operations." Commander Rice stood at her station, watching the massive research facility grow larger on their main display. "Send a message to Confederate High Command. Your negotiation offer is noted. We'll provide our response shortly. Let's show them what humanity can really do." The Helios research station hung in the chromosphere of its host star like a jewel suspended in liquid fire. Its quantum-reinforced shields deflected solar flares that could have vaporized entire planets, while its gravity anchors kept it stable against stellar winds that could tear apart conventional matter. Within its supposedly impregnable walls, the station's chief researcher, Dr. Zixvalia, was experiencing an emotion her species hadn't felt in generations: panic. 3 more phantom signatures detected in sectors 7 through 12, her assistant reported, multifaceted eyes flickering with distress. We can't distinguish the real human vessel from the false readings. Impossible, Zixvalia insisted, her crystalline form vibrating with agitation. Our quantum detection grid is the most sophisticated in known space. No technology should be able to. Her words were cut short as every screen in the command center suddenly displayed the same message. Your security systems are impressive. Unfortunately for you, we stopped thinking about quantum detection the way you do about 50 years ago. HS Prometheus. Commander Reyes stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as their plan unfolded. Status of the station's defensive grid. Their shields are at maximum power, Chen reported. They're cycling through every known frequency, trying to adapt to our presence. Their weapons are fully charged, but she paused, allowing herself a small smile. They still can't get a target lock. Confederate response fleet, still scattered across 12 sectors, Wang confirmed. Their nearest battle group is 20 minutes out, assuming they can maintain maximum speed. The rest are chasing our phantom signatures or trying to protect other potential targets. Reyes nodded, satisfied. Begin Phase 2 primary sequence. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate humanity's ingenuity. The Prometheus's 4 massive energy projectors, the ones the Confederacy had dismissed as poorly designed, began to power up. But instead of generating destructive energy as the aliens had assumed, they created something far more sophisticated. A perfectly synchronized set of spatial folds that began to envelope the research station. Inside Helios, alarms blared as their sensors detected the impossible. The space around the station was literally being reshaped, folded like origami, by forces their instruments couldn't properly measure. Multiple systems failing. Zixvalia's assistant shouted. Shield harmonics collapsing. Gravitational anchors destabilizing. We're losing containment. The Prometheus's attack wasn't designed to destroy the station. It was systematically isolating it from normal spacetime, creating a bubble of altered physics where Confederate technology simply couldn't function as designed. Message from the station, Wang announced. They're offering immediate surrender and full access to their research databases. How generous of them, Reyes replied dryly. Inform them that we're not interested in their technology. Prepare to transmit Package Alpha. Package Alpha was humanity's real purpose, a precisely calculated set of demands that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. As the transmission began, the Prometheus maintained its spatial manipulation, holding one of the Confederacy's most vital installations effectively hostage. Confederate High Command is going into emergency session, Wang reported. Multiple diplomatic channels are opening. They're requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Chen suddenly announced. The Arxian Defense Force is attempting an emergency response. 5 dreadnought squadrons, approaching from different vectors. Reyes remained calm. Right on schedule. Deploy tertiary seed network. Let's demonstrate why gathering their forces was their second mistake. The new wave of quantum seeds activated, creating a cascade effect that rippled through Confederate space. Their sophisticated communication networks, already strained by the phantom signatures, began to experience cascading failures. Battle groups lost contact with each other. Coordination became impossible, and their mighty fleet found itself divided and blind. Confederate command and control network is collapsing, Wang reported, his voice tight with professional satisfaction. Their encrypted channels are degrading. Fleet commanders are falling back on autonomous protocols. Quantum fold maintaining stability, Chen added. Helios Station remains isolated. Their attempts to restore shield functionality are creative but ineffective. Commander Reyes watched the tactical display, noting how the Confederate forces were now effectively fighting themselves. Different battle groups responding to phantom threats, unable to coordinate, their rigid command structure becoming a liability rather than an asset. "Send a message to Confederate High Command," she ordered. "Simple text only. Your entire defense network has been compromised. Your most advanced research facility is under our control. Your fleets are scattered and blind. Would you like to discuss humanity's place in the galaxy now?" The response was immediate. Chancellor Vexthor himself appeared on their communication screen, his scales now a pale, sickly white. "Name your terms," he said simply, all trace of his former arrogance gone. "The terms are simple," Rise replied. "Humanity will no longer be dismissed as a primitive species. We will have equal representation on the Confederate High Council. Our technology will remain our own. We have no interest in sharing it. And most importantly, the Confederacy will acknowledge that age does not equal superiority." As the Chancellor processed these demands, the tactical display showed the Confederate fleet continuing to fragment. Their mighty armada, which had never known defeat in 50,000 years, was being systematically paralyzed, not by superior firepower, but by human ingenuity and strategic thinking. "One other thing," Rise added, allowing herself a small smile. "We want a formal apology for all those speeches about primitive species. We found them rather rude." The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederacy was silent as Commander Lyra Reyes walked to the central podium. The same crystalline dome that had echoed with laughter at humanity's expense now witnessed something unprecedented, a human addressing the full assembly as an equal. "3 months ago, in this very chamber, you dismissed humanity as primitive," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "Today, we gather to sign a new accord that will reshape our galaxy's future." The assembled representatives, representing hundreds of spacefaring civilizations, watched with a mixture of respect and unease. The events of the past months had shattered millennia of assumptions about technological progress and species development. Chancellor Vexthor, his scales now permanently dulled from the stress of recent events, stood beside her. "The Confederacy acknowledges its error in judgment," he announced, each word carefully measured. "Humanity has demonstrated not just technological sophistication, but wisdom we fail to recognize." The formal ceremony that followed was broadcast across Confederate space. The signing of the Prometheus Accords, as they came to be known, marked more than just humanity's ascension to the Confederate High Council. It represented a fundamental shift in how the galaxy's oldest civilizations viewed progress and potential. Aboard the Prometheus, now in high orbit above the Confederate capital world, Lieutenant Chen monitored the last of their quantum seed network. "Final phase shift signatures are stable, Commander. The demonstration net can be deactivated at your command." "Keep it in place for now," Rise replied. "A reminder of consequences can be helpful during diplomatic transitions." The past 3 months had revealed the true extent of humanity's achievement. The Prometheus hadn't just defeated the Confederate military, it had demonstrated the fundamental flaw in their approach to technological development. While the Confederacy had spent millennia refining and perfecting their understanding of quantum mechanics, humanity had looked for entirely new paths. "Message from Earth Command," Wong announced. "The technology exchange protocols are ready to begin. The Confederacy has agreed to share their medical and environmental restoration technologies in exchange for nothing." "Not nothing," Rise corrected. "In exchange for peace and cooperation. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can offer is the absence of conflict." The changes spreading through Confederate society were profound. The revelation that a primitive species had developed technologies that operated outside their understanding had sparked a renaissance of scientific inquiry. For the first time in thousands of years, Confederate researchers were questioning their basic assumptions about physics and reality. "Confederate Military Command is requesting technical advisors," Wong continued. "They want to understand how we develop the Ghost Protocol. Inform them that we'll be happy to discuss basic principles once the new Joint Defense Initiative is fully operational," Rise responded. "They need to understand that trust is earned, not given." The Joint Defense Initiative was perhaps the most significant outcome of the Prometheus Accords. Instead of competing military forces, the Human-Confederate Partnership would create a new framework for galactic security. The Confederacy would contribute their vast experience and resources, while humanity would bring their innovative thinking and fresh perspectives. Multiple diplomatic requests incoming, Wong reported. Several independent worlds outside Confederate space are requesting human technological advisors. They're offering significant resources in exchange for our insights. Rice smiled slightly. Forward those to Earth Command. I suspect our diplomatic corps is about to become very busy. The view from the Prometheus's bridge showed the sprawling Confederate capital below, its ancient spires and quantum arrays a testament to 50,000 years of development. But now, those same spires were being adapted and modified as Confederate engineers began incorporating human insights into their designs. Final status report from Phase 3 operations. Rise inquired. All objectives achieved, Chen confirmed. The quantum seed network remains undetected. Confederate military capabilities are still partially limited, and our Ghost Protocol technology remains completely unknown to their sensors. This was perhaps humanity's greatest victory, not just forcing the Confederacy to acknowledge them, but doing so while maintaining significant technological advantages. The Ghost Protocol, the quantum seeds, and several other key innovations remained exclusively human, ensuring their position in the new galactic order. Send a message to all Confederate channels, Rice commanded. Simple text. The future belongs not to those who claim superiority, but to those willing to learn from each other. Humanity looks forward to a new era of genuine cooperation. As the message was transmitted, she reflected on the irony of their situation. The Confederacy had dismissed humanity as primitive because they didn't follow the expected path of technological development. That very divergence had proven to be humanity's greatest strength. The Prometheus had lived up to its namesake, bringing not just fire but enlightenment to the gods of the galaxy. But unlike the ancient myth, this Prometheus hadn't been punished for its defiance. It had reshaped the very order it had challenged. In the Grand Assembly Hall below, the final protocols of the Prometheus Accords were being sealed. A new age was beginning, one where the galaxy's oldest civilizations had been reminded of a crucial truth. True wisdom lies not in assuming superiority, but in remaining open to new possibilities. As Commander Reyes watched the proceedings, she allowed herself a moment of pride. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through brute force or overwhelming technology, but through innovation, strategy, and the willingness to think differently. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what they had intended.